Hey everyone, my name is Kieran and welcome to this episode of Living with Intention. Now, as it is coming to the end of July, as it's coming towards the end of January, I thought I would do a video on veganism because it's also coming to the end of Veganuary, which is where people try to be vegan for a month and see how it goes. So I thought this was the perfect time to sort of talk about this and its relationship to intentionality. So this video isn't going to touch on everything to do with veganism, but mainly just areas of intentionality and where I think those fit in within the whole of it. And veganism is starting to become more mainstream. People are starting to hear about it, know about it, and it is not just about not eating meat or animal products in your diet, but it is a lifestyle of not consuming any animal products in the things we do across every aspect of our lives. And for a lot of people, myself included, it is also this idea of minimizing the suffering we cause to animals through the choices we make. And we live in this consumer society where we consume a lot of different things, and we are so detached from the supply chain, from the journey of our products, that we won't even recognize really which ones involve animal exploitation and how that animal suffers. And if we don't get to understand that a bit better, it's harder to be intentional in the products we are consuming. So that's one of the things, is asking these questions and starting to dig around deeper into it. As we start to become more aware of what happens, and we make more intentional choices based on that knowledge. So many of the foods and products we consume are based on the society we live in, are based on the cultures and traditions that we are embedded within. And we can see this and how it differs across the world. Literally just have to look at the UK and pets. Cats and dogs. In the UK, they are pets. We would never think about eating our cats and dogs. Some people may, but like for the most part, everyone's like, that's absurd, it's horrible, why would I kill my dog? All these sorts of things. But in other countries, they do eat cats and dogs. And the difference there is culture, it is tradition, it is just the way they perceive those animals to be. There is no actual tangible difference between the animals, it is just the construct that we have made and that we make in different cultures around these animals. And to extend this further, so pigs, cows, sheep, chickens, we have perceived them to be food, we have perceived their life to be worthy of dying, but actually, you know, between them and dogs and cats, there's not much difference. We have just decided one is a pet and one is food. And we can see these cultures and habits show in other ways. So poaching, for example, rhino horn is used in traditional Chinese medicine, and things like ivory from elephants' tusks is used as a status symbol. And in some of these cultures, that is okay. That is, you know, they think that is right. Whereas in our culture, we don't understand why anyone would kill such a beautiful animal in our eyes for these things. And what we need to recognize is that the rhinos and elephants and the cows, sheep, cats, dogs, they have different values to us because of the way we perceive them. So like racism and sexism, where people are discriminated against because of their gender or their skin color or ethnicity, and there is speciesism, where different species are discriminated against because we place a value on them, and they are all sentient beings who feel pain, who can suffer, who want to live. And this draws me to something that Damien Mander has said, who is the CEO and founder of the Anti-Poaching Foundation.
You know, I was a victim of my own bullshit. When I walked around the bush for 4 years, refusing to acknowledge that a cow has the same capacity to suffer as a rhino, and the only difference we create between their two abilities to suffer is the difference we create in our own minds. And you know, I was a master of coming up with all these excuses as to why other animals didn't need the same level of appreciation as what the ones were that I was protecting. And it's bullshit, and eventually, I suppose if you're open enough to acknowledging the truth, it gets too much for you, and that's a good thing.
And so he goes into it there about how this is just a construct, and when we open our mind to these ideas and are more open to it and open to change, that maybe we will start to look at what we are doing and the actual impact of it and how it affects these animals, rather than just putting it to the peripheries of our thoughts. Because ultimately, exploitation of any being is not right. And if we don't need animal products to survive, then why would we continue to use them and continue to let this suffering continue for these animals? When we buy things, when we consume products, we are demanding that thing in the way it is met through that supply chain. So this is why it's important to recognize and be intentional in what we consume, because we may not even know what we are contributing to. You know, when we're eating food, and if it's meat, it is obvious that, you know, an animal has died there, but I don't think people make that connection. And it's even less obvious if it's a product that is tested on animals or has just got some small part of, you know, gelatin or whatever it is in it. It's easy to not be aware of this, but it exists in our society, and ultimately I think most of us don't want animals to suffer, and yet the things we buy and the things we consume lead to that. So that is where intentionality is, realizing that suffering, and if we don't want to be a part of it, is recognizing that and trying to reduce to start off with, and then eliminate the suffering we are causing to our best ability. So one question that really got me thinking about this whole thing on my journey, because I went vegetarian first for the environment, and before that I ate meat for 22 years and I ate a lot of it. I loved the taste of it, I loved everything about it. But the question that really got me was, is an animal's life worth less than my taste buds? Now, a lot of people will go quickly, but bacon though, or sausages or whatever. But actually when we sit with that question, when we sit and think and hold space for that, it becomes pretty obvious, well, to me at least, maybe not to other people depending on where their perspective is from, but no taste, no pleasure should, you know, come from the suffering of another animal like that. Like, I couldn't kill these animals, so why should I pay someone else to do it? And I wouldn't want to kill them, so why would I consume them? This is just a connection I made. Obviously, different people connect to different things and have different perspectives, so I'm not expecting that to necessarily resonate with all of you, but that is something that resonated with me and led me on my journey to you know, choosing to contribute less to this suffering and go vegan. And this video isn't here to tell you to go vegan. Ultimately, if you want to make that decision, that is your choice. Will have to come from within you. But what I am saying is just open your eyes to the suffering that is going on. Just look into it a bit more. It's easy for us to remain ignorant, but actually we have so much information, so much data available that we probably shouldn't, because actually there is a lot of this going on. There's a lot of suffering happening for these animals, and we can actually be a contributor to alleviating that suffering. If you look in the UK, the demand for pork and beef went down this year, and that's awesome. That is because people are making more conscious decisions in eating, whether it's for the environment or the animals. And I know when I made this switch, I became way happier because it aligned my values and my morals of trying to reduce suffering, reduce harm, spread positivity and joy. It just aligned with all of those things. And now when I eat, I feel incredible because I know that I'm not contributing to that. That's just me personally, that's my experience. But yeah, it's just something I want to share with you. So what I ask for you from this video is that you maybe just sit with some questions or go explore a bit more about the meat industry and or animal products and where they come from, whether it's fur for jackets, whether it's how an animal ends up with slaughtered, how baby chickens are killed, like all these sorts of things. Like, look into what you are getting and where it comes from, and then you can at least make an intentional decision. If you're going to keep consuming it, that's your choice, but at least be aware of what you are contributing to and recognize that. Ask how they make you feel. So often people come up with quick rebuttals and quick arguments and quick excuses, but just sit with it. Think about these questions, think about what's going on, this whole process, and yeah, then make a decision, a more informed decision, a more intentional decision based on that. And I believe that change starts from within, and it's so awesome to see so many people reducing their meat consumption, eating more plants, whether it's for the environment, their health, the animals, whatever the reason. That is awesome. But anyway, this has been my video on this and veganism and intentionality. I hope you liked it. I really would love some feedback on it. So let me know what you think. It's quite an interesting topic to try and talk about with regards to intentionality. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's provided you value, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And yeah, I'll see you here next week for another episode of Living with Intention. But yeah, I'll see you soon. Peace. A world excluded to the peripheries, which so many of us fail to see, but in actuality it is in plain sight. A system of suffering, pain and fear. People don't like to mention it or even give it a name. But if you kill an innocent being, can you really complain if someone questions you? No one wants to watch animals suffer, and the consequences of our actions are so far removed from one another that link is so often overlooked. as animals are hooked, trapped, or led down a path they will never come back from. For years I knew nothing wrong. I was oblivious to the reality of what I was a part of. It never crossed my mind. Society, culture and tradition had me believe this was absolutely fine. Even in school we were told it was what we needed. If only I had seen it and realised the world hidden beneath those 5 minutes of flavour as their lives touched my lips. It's funny how it all changed. It didn't all happen at once. There was a nagging feeling, a feeling to dive into the depths of my mind and realise these lives, to pull off that blindfold, to realise the truth. Like the red pill in the Matrix, I finally knew. There was nothing good in what I was doing, in those products that I kept consuming. So I sat and explored what it all meant for me. Ultimately, there was nowhere else for me to go but that V. To choose compassion, life and love. I just wish I'd seen it sooner.